Welcome to the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. This is episode number 106 on June 16th, 2022. My name is Andy Z. I'm the host of the show, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Today's show focuses on the critical juncture in the fight for half of humanity in this country with impact around the world to have the right to abortion on demand and without apology. We are going to hear different voices of people who have been stepping out and stepping up, disrupting business as usual to call forth the millions of women, girls, and everyone to come to Washington, D.C. and stay to stop this assault on this fundamental constitutional right. But first, I begin today's RNL Revolution Nothing Less show with some straight talk of a great need to be filled. A need that bears down on us all as we pour our hearts, our minds, our bodies into joining with the fight for the right to abortion. This week we have posted on our website, revcom.us, an article that begins this way, quote, "Everyone who can't stand this world the way it is needs to be challenged to be part of the revolution that is the way out of this madness. And people need to know that there is an actual strategy for making this revolution based on the key points of the foundation and the roadmap for this revolution in the work by the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating," end quote. This article is titled, "Organizing for an Actual Revolution, 7 Key Points." It goes on to say in introducing these 7 points that they are, quote, "the basic means for carrying out this strategy so that the currently small forces for the revolution that is urgently needed can grow in numbers and strength quickly in a concentrated way and become the powerful force that is needed to lead this revolution. Spreading and popularizing these key points is also an important part of carrying out this strategy," end quote. Over the past year, the RNL show has popularized the RevComs, a declaration, a call to get organized now for a real revolution, along with Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating. We've called on people to get into these works and to discuss them with friends, as well as with the revolution clubs, digging into 1, why we need a revolution, 2, what a revolution really is, and 3, what the goal of the revolution must be, and on that basis, to get into how we need to struggle with and organize masses of people for revolution now. Even as we have discussed this and illustrated why this is the only road forward for humanity, this struggle has not yet happened with the boldness and scale that is so urgently needed. The analysis, the strategy, and especially the leadership provided by Bob Avakian overall, and in Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating, has not been deeply enough engaged, grappled with, and fought for with the certitude and acuity that this moment in history requires. Along with this, people don't know that in Bob Avakian, BA, they have a radically different kind of leader, a revolutionary who bases himself on the scientific understanding that this system must be finally overthrown through an organized struggle involving millions of people and replaced with a system that is oriented to and capable of meeting the most fundamental needs of humanity and enabling humanity to become fit caretakers of the earth. And that Bob Avakian, BA, is the architect of a whole new framework of human emancipation. If you are watching and learning about these works for the first time today, as soon as this program concludes, go to revcom.us and read, download, and discuss these articles. And recognize that what I have said so far and what I'm about to get into, the serious struggle required to spread and fight hard with people to wake up and dig into this work, is something that you too are being called on to be a part of. Getting into these 7 key points yourself and joining the struggle, not just against the system, but with everyone who really needs to be a part of fighting for a radically different and far better future. Too few even know about these documents. Too few have been sharply confronted with the situation we face, which really is heading towards a terrible future of such horrific dimension that it defies imagination. And at the heart of the matter, fewer still have been struggled with to get their heads out of the sand, let alone out of their asses, and seriously engage the revolution that humanity so urgently needs. What I mean by heads in the sand is too many of those who desire a just world without oppression are in the grip of ways of thinking that's locked within the putrid present, a culture and a way of going through the world that pollutes people's thinking and suffocates aspiration for change. People's horizons are submerged beneath the so-called practical, pragmatic politics of voting for the Democrats, who will not and cannot mount any effective opposition to the Republican Fascist Party. The first of these 7 key points of organizing for an actual revolution says, quote, "The Democrats have no real answer, except trying to maintain the normal way that the oppressive rule of this system has been enforced for hundreds of years, while the fascists are determined to tear up these norms and rule through more openly and aggressively oppressive means without the traditional disguise of supposed democracy for all," end quote. Look, I could go on for an hour and not begin to exhaust all the ways that Biden's and the Democrats have failed miserably to not just stop this fascist onslaught, but to even attempt to mobilize the masses of people who do care and who bear the brunt of all the oppression that this system brings down on the people. The first point of this new important directive on revcom.us, organizing for an actual revolution, 7 key points, begins by sharply concentrating the fundamental point of departure, the foundation for why we need a revolution. Quote, "Brutal and murderous white supremacy, male supremacy, and other oppressive relations, the deepening crisis in society and the world overall, including the constant wars and continuing destruction of the environment, all this cannot ultimately be resolved in any positive way within the confines of the system that rules in this country and dominates in the world as a whole, the system of capitalism imperialism," end quote. And it tells why in this moment when the country is sharply divided from top to bottom, why that opens the possibility of a real revolution to overthrow the system that is destroying humanity and the planet. The 7 key points then tell how to go about making this possibility real. This is a roadmap, a strategy. A strategy is a game plan and a plan of action. Just how crazy is it to fail to read, engage, debate, and apply a strategy to put an end to all the madness that is the world at this juncture in history? How narrow-minded, how head in the sand is it when faced with the environment being destroyed, with half of humanity potentially losing the right to abortion and to control their own futures and bodies? When the world is closer than it has been in over half a century to a potential nuclear war and not even fucking engage this? And all the more so when the plan, the roadmap, is as unprecedented and viable as what Bob Avakian has written in Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating, and is now concentrated in organizing for an actual revolution, 7 key points. I'll tell you what it is ignorance, comparable to starting a drive across Death Valley in the heat of summer without putting gas in the car or taking a bottle of water with you. I said that part of the problem is that too many people have their heads up their asses as well, which is what needs to be said when in the face of something unbelievably terrible mounts by the day, and instead of looking out in the world for answers, too many are looking in the mirrors of their cell phones. Or in what amounts to the same thing, turning away from confronting the need to dig into the reality of the problem we face and the solution, to stand up to the system, and to do whatever it takes to save the people and the planet. Instead, a fever has spread, where all too many are turning their woke-ass attention to tearing down others, including, if not especially, those who are standing up against the system. Bob Avakian put it straight in Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating when he said, quote, "Masses of people are being brutalized and savaged. The world is burning, literally as well as figuratively. And you are preoccupied with changing the faces of those who preside over these horrors and spitting on people if they don't use nouns and pronouns that you approve of? or in some other way violate the constantly mutating standards of wokeness, end quote? Look, enough of this, enough of acting like this is doing anything other than contributing to and furthering the nightmare that is coming if we don't take up organizing now for a real revolution and struggling with people over that. Later in today's program, we will speak to this in regard to the abortion battle. Organizing for an actual revolution, 7 key points, crisply lays out the road forward. In this opening to today's show, I am reaching out to everyone who has the heart to fight for something really worth fighting for. This is a message for all of you watching this show for the first time. And I am also addressing this message to the RevComs and our supporters. Think about this. Measure what it is in these 7 key points and measure what I have said. And to everyone, take this to heart and take this new work, organizing for an actual revolution, 7 key points up now. Let us not speak falsely. The hour is getting late. The winds of change are howling. The roar of the wind up to now has been of the fire, floods, hunger, war, brutal oppression of people for being women, people of color, different genders, different nationalities, the howl of the beast of imperialism. Get into these 7 key points. And let's bring the ferocious wind of the millions of people rising up for the emancipation of all of humanity through an actual revolution.